Your eyes did not deceive you today. That really was the President of the United States, a Democratic President of the United States, standing in front of the White House, kind of like on the driveway, I guess, with 5 Democratic senators and 5 Republican senators, all of them smiling-ish. At least they're all there. And they were there to announce that they were in agreement on something, all of them. Now, that said, despite all the very, very excited Beltway headlines today about the president and senators of both parties getting this major breakthrough bipartisan deal done on infrastructure today, there is nothing actually done about it. As they say, nothing is agreed to until everything is agreed to. And this is one step on what promises to still be a long and windy road ahead. I mean, for starters, let's just do the kind of math that we can do on our hands without taking off our shoes. There were 5 Republican senators at that announcement today. You will recall that the magic number of Republican senators that Democrats need to join them to defeat a filibuster of any bill is not 5, it's 10. Are there another 5 Republican senators who weren't there today who will vote for this infrastructure bill? Maybe. The notable thing today that I saw is that there's a remarkable group of people who do all now seem to be on the same side in terms of how this moves forward. And I'm not talking about those 5 Republican senators who are standing there with Joe Biden. I'm talking about all the Democrats. It's no secret that Democrats are divided on the utility and wisdom of this bipartisan bill that's been worked out with a small number of Republicans. But today they do appear unified on the path forward, which is maybe even more important. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi started off the day saying that if the Senate passes this smallish bipartisan bill, she will only move it through the House if Senate Democrats also pass their own separate infrastructure bill with lots more infrastructure spending and on Democratic priorities, including addressing climate change. Democrats can pass such a bill on their own through the same budget trick they used for the COVID relief bill, even if no Republicans vote with them. Pelosi said she's happy to move on this little bipartisan thing they've put together, but not until the Democrats pass the big bill by reconciliation. This afternoon, President Biden said he's on board with that plan, telling reporters he won't sign the little bipartisan bill unless it is delivered to his desk, along with the additional, larger, likely to be Democrats-only package that is likely to only be able to be passed by reconciliation. Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer says he is on board with that path, too. Also apparently on board with that path is conservative Democratic Senator Joe Manchin, who has reveled in being the one who says no to all Democratic plans. He's been the one insisting on doing this bipartisan bill. He tells NBC News' Frank Thorpe tonight that doing both bills together is inevitable, which means he's on board with doing, yes, this infrastructure bill with Republicans that he worked on so hard, but also the larger, potentially Democrat-only bill for all the other stuff that Democrats want to do through reconciliation. So President Biden's on board, Nancy Pelosi's on board, Chuck Schumer's on board, conservative Senator Joe Manchin is on board, and even the chair of the House Progressive Caucus, Pramila Jayapal, who's about as far on the other side of the Democratic Party as you can get from Joe Manchin. Congresswoman Jayapal put out a careful and, I think, important statement today, appearing to support this plan to only pass both bills together. Obviously, progressives are much more interested in what can be done in the big bill, the reconciliation bill, the one that they don't need Republican votes for. But this bipartisan thing, you want to do that? You can do that. We're going to do the big reconciliation bill, too. They have to go together. That's the strategy. And yes, it's a congressional process, right? That's not anybody running through the tape at the end of this race. It's how they move forward. But to have all elements of the Democratic side, the progressives and the conservatives and the White House and the leadership in both houses of Congress all pulling in the same direction, all on the same terms in terms of how they're going to get this done and what they have agreed to in terms of moving forward, I think that's a bigger deal than having 5 Republican senators standing on the White House driveway today. Joining us now is Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal of the great state of Washington. She's chair of the House Progressive Caucus. Congresswoman Jayapal, thank you so much for your time tonight. I really appreciate you being here.
It's so great to see you, Rachel.
So I don't spend a lot of time talking about the arcane twists and turns of congressional procedure. But in this case, I feel like this emerging plan that there is this little bipartisan thing that senators have worked out amongst themselves, which may or may not pass with some number of Republicans. And this larger bill that Democrats may have to do on their own through reconciliation, those things moving together in tandem does, to me at least, seem like a plan that everybody's on board with. Is that fair?
It's a really big deal, and you're absolutely right to call it out. And let me just call out why we got to where we are and just take a little credit for the progressive movement's work in organizing. For weeks, we have been saying directly to the Speaker, to the Senate Majority Leader, to the White House, we will not move a smaller infrastructure bill, bipartisan, whatever, unless we have simultaneously a big reconciliation bill that has all of our priorities, particularly the 5 progressive priorities that the Progressive Caucus has identified. That is robust child care, it's Medicare expansion, it's bold climate action, it's immigration for essential workers, and it's housing. Those were the 5 priorities we had identified a month and a half ago. And so we have been very clear about our message. And in fact, last week, Rachel, one of the things we did just to really emphasize the point, let's say, in the nicest way possible, is we polled our members, our 95 members in the Progressive Caucus, and we said, well, what do you think? Will you support just a regular old infrastructure package if it's bipartisan and small? Or will you say we are not going to vote for any such package unless there has been a reconciliation package that has been passed that includes these priorities? And we got overwhelming support, which I was then able to share with the Speaker, with the Senate Majority Leader, with others. Of course, in the Senate, progressives were doing the same thing. So I think this is a real victory for the progressive movement at large and for the country at large, of course, because this is about delivering for real people. And to have the President of the United States, the Speaker of the House, the Senate Majority Leader saying what progressives have been saying for 3 weeks has been, frankly, an organizing campaign, and one that we feel very good about. And we now feel like there's a lot of steps to go forward, but we feel like this is a new day. It's a new place because we are now focused on what that hopefully $6 trillion or more package can be for reconciliation that has all of our priorities.
It's such a key point in terms of getting here. I think it is worth stepping back from this, as you just described, to see that the kind of strategy that everybody is now agreeing to in terms of how this is going to move forward really is what progressives were demanding from sort of outside the box as recently as 3 weeks ago. And it now has become what everybody's agreed to in terms of how this is moving forward. I sort of had a feeling that it might be going this direction. Last night, we had Senator Elizabeth Warren here live, and she articulated the same strategy that now everybody's agreed to today that you and your colleagues were pushing for these last few weeks, which is, a bipartisan bill that they worked out with some Republican senators. It's okay, but we're not going to do that in place of the larger reconciliation bill. They have to go together. And now that seems where we are.